they're going to be in the same career or like the same track for 40, 30 years. Very cool, one in the back. How many of you have like a really solid 10-year life plan? Like, you know exactly where you want to be, who you want to be hanging out with, exactly what you're going to be doing. Very good, one gentleman here. Not a lot of hands went up though, right? And why is this? So, like, we live in tumultuous times, we live in complex times, right? I think there's two ways people are sort of starting to respond to this. One way is trying to say, how can we seek stability? How can we find a place in this to get away from everything that's changing? And I want to talk about the other option, which is, how do we learn to live with complexity? How do we learn to live in a world that's changing very quickly? So my name's Taylor Pearson. I wrote a book called The End of Jobs. The thesis is pretty simple. The thesis is that entrepreneurship is going to be as critical of a career skill for the 21st century as basic literacy was for the 20th. That's how we learn to deal with complexity. So let me take a step back first and talk about what I mean when I say entrepreneurship. The word comes from a French word named entreprendre, which means simply to undertake. So not to start a huge company, but simply to undertake. There's a dean at the Close School of Entrepreneurship at Drexel University named Dinah Careless. She has a quote I really like. It's, being an entrepreneur, approaching your life entrepreneurially does not mean choosing to start a business. It means choosing to embark on a path not chartered in order to achieve a desirable goal or outcome. So the definition leads to this counterintuitive conclusion, which is, in order to be entrepreneurial, we have to first be ignorant. We have to stand at the edge of our own blank map and take a step out into the empty space. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about, which is, why is this becoming so essential? Why is entrepreneurship, why is the world becoming more complex? And then what can we do about it? What are some ways to think about and approach it? So first, why is entrepreneurship becoming more essential? There was a presentation given earlier this year at the World Economic Forum. The director said, we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, it is unlike anything we've ever dealt with before. So how do you approach something we've never dealt with before? And the answer, I think, lies in a framework by a guy named Dave Snowden. He worked with IBM. And very simply, it categorizes work. It's called the Cynefin framework. It categorizes work into three different quadrants. Simple, complicated, and complex. So simple work is something that has a best practice. It's something there's a right way to do and a wrong way to do. So like, think about putting together a set of Legos, right? Like, there's 35 steps, and either it looks like a castle at the end or it doesn't look like a castle at the end. There's a right and a wrong way. Complicated work is something where there's a good practice. So there's not a totally right or totally wrong way to do it. There's kind of a generally accepted standard practice. So you have like accounting standards, where you have standards around different fields about how work is done. What happened over the course of the 20th century is that we shifted from a simple to a complicated economy. So if you take farming as one example, kind of historically a simple industry, you got in the fields, there's a right way and a wrong way to deal with the crops. In 1880, 49% of the U.S. was involved in agriculture. By 1980, that number was 3.4%. So a huge shift, right, from agriculture into more complicated work. And even for agriculture, the work itself became complicated. My dad grew up on a small farm in Tennessee, and the way you used to feed chickens is you went into the corn crib, and you got the corn out, and you went into the front yard and you shucked the corn into the chickens. And now there's a farm about 2 miles down the road from where he grew up, and the way they feed chickens is they have this $5 million piece of machinery where you run it on the computer, and it's got torque sensors and load cells and tension hooks, and all of a sudden you feed chicken like that. It's gotten a lot more complicated. But the results have been really amazing, right? Which is, in 1880 compared to 1980, the average income adjusted for inflation for a family of four in the U.S. went from $8,000 to $43,000. The largest increase in wealth and opportunity in any history, in any 100-year period in the world. And I think if we can make the next transition from complicated to complex, we have the opportunity to do the same thing, to create the same amount of wealth and opportunities for ourselves and for our children. So if complicated is the realm of good practice, complex is the realm of emergent practice. It's where there isn't a clear right or wrong way to do it. It's emergent. It's the realm of entrepreneurship. It's the realm of thinking entrepreneurially. So how do we become entrepreneurial? I want to just give two two examples, two things to think about. Those are starting a side project and getting an apprenticeship. So let me start with the side project. I've seen a lot of side projects. I've started a lot of side projects. And there's two characteristics I find for people that have successful side projects. One is you scratch your own itch, and two is it's something you can launch really fast. So let me start with one. You scratch your own itch. Scratching your own itch just means you're solving a problem you yourself have. So Charbel talked about starting a battery because he couldn't charge his phone. I have a friend named Dan. He had a website, and he noticed like every week or two, something on his website broke, or he wanted to change something, right? This button broke, or he wanted to move the header from this size to this size. We didn't know how to do it. He wasn't technical. And he said, I wonder if anyone else has this problem too. They have like something technical on their website they need to change. They're not technical, but they don't want to hire someone full-time, right? It's like something comes up every week. What should I do? And so he emailed some people, and they said, yeah, I have this problem too. He said, great, I'll solve it for you. And he hired someone and started to manage that person and kind of distribute them around these different websites. And he was able to do that in about 3 days. He was able to launch it really, really fast. So there's a problem he was solving for himself, and it was something he was able to do very fast in 3 days. Within 2 years, that was a multi-million-dollar business. Something he started in 3 days with a problem he solved. So what is a problem you yourself have that you can design a solution for in less than 7 days for under $100? It's a really good side project. The other option I want to talk about is to get an apprenticeship. Apprenticeships are something, if you look at history, in the medieval, the guilds, this was how things learned. This is how people learned, how people came up. And this was actually what happened to me. I had a side project. I was selling advertising on kitchen furniture websites. I said, I don't think this is really a great business model, but I learned a bunch of stuff doing this, right? I learned about how to set up websites and how to do web marketing and how to reach out to suppliers and all this kind of stuff. And I took it to a company. I said, hey, I'd like to bring these skills and work with you, and I'd like to learn a lot from you. And so that was the agreement we made. I worked with them for 2 years in this kind of apprenticeship type position where they said, we're going to teach you a lot about the company, how the company's run, how the business is run. And I was able to fund my education through working in this apprenticeship type position. So what are skills you already have, things you're either getting paid for, things you're already talented at, and how can you take those skills and put them into a company or put them into a situation where you have an apprenticeship, where you have someone else you can learn from. So the thing I want to leave you with, the question people often ask me when I talk about this kind of stuff is they say, yeah, that's great, but what if I fail? So first, if you follow the guidelines, failure is going to be really cheap, right? It's going to be like less than a night out with dinner and a movie. But the question I actually want to pose back is, what if you never start? I think what technology offers us is the opportunity to find out who we are, and more importantly, who we might become. Consider if the guitar had never been invented, the Beatles never would have composed. If English or the written language had never been invented, Shakespeare never would have written. If painting had never been invented, Van Gogh never would have painted. So I believe your unique skills, experiences, insights, and the technology available today, you all have the opportunity to find the work only you can do. I hope you will. Thank you.